Hello, everybody. All right, with that out of the way, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mikestand Weekend Edition. Metal is here with me. Rick will probably be joining us soon, from what I was told. Um, so, as always, guys, if you guys haven't yet, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. And also, if anything we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. All right. So now you were just telling me about your family, and there's two types of body types.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you kind of know pretty early on in my family whether you're going to be really skinny or really round. That's about it. And I think part of it even mostly has to do with there's a couple of gene mutations that go through my family that I happen to have,
Hmm.
where you have increased bone and muscle density, right? So like I could work out all day, it never shows. Like I'll get stronger. It just doesn't show. I always look like a twig, no matter what. But my other brother, my brother doesn't have it, and he would be around if he wasn't working so hard to keep in shape. Like he's got a weight room and everything.
Hmm. So I take it you guys had Thanksgiving on Thursday.
Yeah, yeah. We had it on the day you normally have it on.
Yeah. Well, this year our family, my family, we had it actually on Friday because on Thursday my nephew had to work and my older sister was going to her, to my brother-in-law's mother's house for it. So we ended up, doing ours on Friday. So a different day off, but still kind of part of the weekend, anyways, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, the only tradition that I other than obviously the food, right, that I keep to is I opened it up in my Discord and I made everybody listen to Alice's Restaurant Massacre by Arlo Guthrie with me at 6 p.m. like you're supposed to every Thanksgiving.
Hey, Rick,
Hey,
we're just kind of relating our Thanksgiving stories here, and I know yours is like a month ago. So.
yeah, nothing really special for my Thanksgiving this year,
Yeah.
even a month ago,
Well, if I let's see, had your mother already passed at that point, or
Yeah, she had been gone for like a month and a half.
all right?
Yeah, Rick, that's actually something we both went through. It's our first Thanksgivings without our mom.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Although somebody did, well, ours is more on the Sunday. We have ours more on the Sunday of the weekend. That's supposed to
Oh,
be.
okay.
Some do it the Monday, but I think it's supposed to be the Monday, but
Hmm.
because of travel and all that, some do it the Monday, some do it the Sunday, and all that.
Hmm.
But the Sunday, somebody took me out to lunch, I guess, at a chicken rotisserie place after church. So,
Well, that was
but
probably good then. You at least had
yeah,
somebody kind of. All right. Well, at least three of us are here, so I'm gonna give you guys a chance, if you want to do your intros. Share any links of any things you guys are promoting. We'll start with Metal since he came in first, and then Rick, and then we'll. I've got an. Even I don't have any articles to go over. I do have kind of something that was kind of on my mind this past week. I actually did talk a little bit about during the week, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, Metal, did you want to do an
hello.
intro? Maybe share any links or promote anything?
Yeah, hey, I'm the metal and I'm a dirty t-shirt merchant. You should buy my t-shirt over on Spring. It's a the fifth anniversary image of Zeba that I made. So it is X Dynamis Chaos related for anybody who might enjoy that. I think it's a really nice t-shirt and I get money for it. So you should totally buy it.
Hmm.
That's all I got.
And this is the link right here to that, right?
Yes.
All right. All right. So, and you don't want to promote your show or anything like that?
No, the only thing I want to warn is that the t-shirt is limited time. I will be nuking it on December 15th. So if you don't get it now, you're going to be missing out on it.
So that's just under 3 weeks from now. So, Ironically, that you're nuking it on the 15th, because I think that's when you're next on as a co-host.
Probably. I just put it up on the 15th, and I said I was only running it for a month, so that'd be pure coincidence.
Yeah. All right, Rick. Your turn. If you want to share any links, promote anything like that.
I will just share me a short that I did, I think earlier this week or late last week, for coloring in Baby Yoda, aka Groku, however you want to pronounce it. So that's all I'll share at the moment. Just go over to my channel and subscribe if you're not.
All right. And you sure you don't want to share that link as well? The link to your, well, I guess a short would lead to your channel as well, right?
Yeah, they're on my channel, so at that point they can subscribe too.
Right.
And go watch a whole bunch of other content. Actually, I noticed somebody had watched a couple of the Battles of Ice or the Final Fantasy thing that we did. Metal.
Oh yeah, the thing that we haven't done in like well over a year.
Yeah, a couple of people went back and watched a couple of the episodes.
All right. Well, with all that out of the way, then. So actually, granted, there wasn't a whole lot of news items this week, holiday week, the holiday season, so things are slowing down. So I didn't even cover the ICS this week, but there was a specific reason why I didn't, because a particular individual was being featured. Rick, you know the backstory on that. He who shall not be named.
Okay.
You probably remember. You remember the situation, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So
I am utterly clueless, but I'm along for the ride.
Well, I'll let you know after the show what we're referring to.
He was the bane of a bunch of people's existence in our circles, and he died about a year
Rick,
ago.
I won't say it out loud. You can type it in the private chat, and the audience won't see it.
Oh yeah.
I just like to be in the loop. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I'll just.
I can't even remember his name.
Well, no. I mean, I know his name, but I just think I'll just tell you after the show.
Okay.
Waste that much more time on it here now. Let's talk about something a little bit happier. But anyways, so yeah, actually, one of the things I did, as I was, looking for a way, because I was only finding like one article each day. It seemed like, so I figured I had to open up with something a little bit more loosey goosey a little bit. So
I just put in the private chat the name for Metal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, well, in this case, since he's already passed on, it's somebody else, though, that I was specifically talking about. He who has
okay. Then I think it's
somebody who usually goes by his initials more of the time. So,
okay, yeah, I know that guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, Anyways, so one of the things I was, so when I started talking about this past, because as you guys know, I've been watching a lot of the Golden Age cartoons of late through like Tune In With Me on MeTV and some other stuff here, right? So one of the things I was realizing is that there are certain names that you hear, and when you hear those names, you normally associate them with certain companies, certain studios, right? But then, as I've been learning and stuff like that, those were not the only studios they worked for. Like an example of this, when you guys hear the name Mel Blanc, what do you normally what usually first comes to mind? You hear the name Mel Blanc.
Probably
Warner Brothers and their subsidiaries.
Yeah,
right.
Probably
Warner Brothers because
Bugs
of
Bunny?
Bugs Bunny and a lot of the characters. But
Though my favorite character
and I
of
know,
him,
and I know he did some characters for Hanna-Barbera too, with
that's my favorite character is Barney Rubble.
Barney Rubble, and I think he did Elroy and Mr. Spacey as well. But what you may not know, he was the first voice of Woody Woodpecker.
No, I actually
You
knew
guys know that? Huh?
I actually knew that.
Oh, you knew that?
Yeah, when I was younger, I
I'm
used to be a little obsessed about Woody Woodpecker.
Oh, about like Walter Lantz stuff and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
might have
used
known it.
to annoy my parents doing his laugh all the time.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because he was there. I think this was actually before he got his big break with Warner Brothers, but he was actually there for the first year, from when Woody do in the Andy Panda cartoon Knock Knock, and then he ended up getting his own series of shorts. For that first year, he was Woody Woodpecker, and they even kept his variation of the laugh throughout the 40s. And then I think one of their writers, Ben Hardaway, well, I think a couple of guys, Kent Rogers, who passed away in 1944 at the age of 21. He had actually gone into the army and become a pilot and was shot down during the war. And then Ben Hardaway, one of their writers, eventually took over the role of Woody after that, up until Walter Lantz Productions took a hiatus at the end of 48. They closed down their studio for like a year. And then 1950 they started auditioning, and the one who won out the role of Woody was Grace Stafford, Walter Lantz's wife. I might have mentioned this to you guys a few weeks ago too when we were talking about this too. For like the first 8 years she was doing Woody's voice, she asked her husband not to give her credit because she was worried that if the kids found out that a woman was doing Woody's voice, it would
Ruin it for them.
Yeah, it would upset them. But apparently that wasn't the case. When she did decide to take credit, she people were all right with it. And of course, aside from Woody, of course, Grace did a number of other voices for Walter Lantz Studio, including Betsy Berry of the Berry Family shorts in the late 60s or in the early 70s there. Mrs. Meany, who basically became one of Woody's antagonists at the very end there. In fact, when I was watching the Woody Woodpecker show on MeTV yesterday, they were showing what was said to be the last Walter Lantz short to be broadcast, which was, I don't remember the name of the short, but Woody starred opposite Ms. Meany in that, where he was actually going to school. His dog kept trying to follow him to school, and he would tell him, "No, you got to go home. You can't go to school with me." And you had basically a good part of the episode Woody getting punished by Ms. Meany. So, initially with the old ruler to the hand bit. I don't know if you guys ever remember that part. When a teacher would sometimes slap you on the hand with a ruler. Was also
I'm aware of it.
Huh?
I'm aware of it because of watching old movies and cartoons and stuff. By the time I went to school, that was already forbidden.
Yeah.
I never got that.
Well, I mean, it was featured in Little House on the Prairie too. There was that one episode where that one guy, Mr. Applewood, came in to replace Miss Beadle when because the school council felt she couldn't handle some of the older boys, so they felt they needed to bring a man teacher who's a bit more strict. And then Mrs. Olsen got into his ear, telling him how bad Laura Ingalls was, and then she started getting behind, and that's when her father, But yeah, but
No, my favorite version of it is in the Blues Brothers when they go to visit the orphanage that they grew up in that was ran by the Catholic Church, and they I think they say Jesus Christ once, right? Which according to the nun, that would be taking the Lord's name in vain, and she smacks him with a yardstick. And then he swears, and then the other brother swears because of that. And every time they swear in response to getting smacked with a stick, she just keeps hitting them until she basically drives them out of the room by beating them with a yardstick. It's a very funny bit.
yeah, I mean, I mean, I know that can sting, but that sting you can eventually get used to that sting, especially if you're kind of a bigger kid, and it's like at some point it starts losing its effect. It's like, really?
I don't know. This nun was hitting them pretty hard with it. It's not like you would hit a child, but I think it's probably because she was hitting grown men.
Yeah. So, let's see. So I'm gonna throw out some names, and then you guys tell me what studio first comes to mind when I mention these names. We already did it with Mel Blanc. I'm gonna throw out some other names, and then I want you to tell me what the first animation studio, movie studio, whatever comes to mind when you hear the name. Dawes Butler.
None.
Not
familiar with that name.
Dawes Butler was known for doing a lot of Hanna-Barbera cartoons, in particularly Yogi Bear.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dawes Butler was known for his work with Hanna-Barbera, but even before that, Tim's here. Hey, Tim.
Hello.
Hello.
Talking cartoon. I don't know if you heard any of what we were just talking about. I know you just came in there, so.
Yeah, am I late?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Always.
late, but it's still okay. You're here, so.
Oh, my bad.
No problem.
I've been
Yeah.
typing this whole time, so.
But you must have just got in because I looked down and saw you, and that I got you right in, so you weren't sitting in the back too long.
Okay, you have to extend the show another hour. Okay.
Anyways, well, so what we're talking about, I don't know if you had a chance to hear a little bit of what we're just talking about here when you came
Nope.
in. We're talking about like Golden Age cartoons. When I was pointing out to Metal and Rick here was with the fact I've been watching a lot of Golden Age cartoons lately. I was just thinking, I was coming to the realization of how some of these voice actors, when you hear when you hear the name, you associate them with a particular studio, the particular animation or movie studio.
I don't know any, so I
To
don't know.
realize that, they did other stuff too. It's like we were talking about, like, for example, Mel Blanc. Most people, when
Mel
they
Blanc.
what was that?
Mel Blanc, not Mel Blanc.
I think I've heard it both ways.
Oh, okay.
People said it.
Tomato.
I'm sure he corrected people all the time.
Yeah. But Mel Blanc, then, he's often associated with the Warner Brothers characters, with like Bugs Bunny and the lot. But one of the things we were talking about, what a lot of people knew, was his roles in Hanna-Barbera with as Elroy Jetson and Barney Rubble, but also,
you want to hear something funny? I actually just looked on the official pronunciation of his name, and you're both wrong.
What?
It's "a" as in bad, so it's Mel Blanc.
I hate his last name.
Mel
it's not a
Blanc?
strong. It's not a strong A. It's not a. It's not a aw. It's an a, like in the word bad. So it's Mel Blanc.
It's the short. It's what we would call in English the short ballet, right?
Yes, it's if you were to use it for pronunciation, you would use the Nordic ash the AE single word.
I hate
so
his
it's
last
blank.
name.
Yeah.
I-
Melvin Jeremy Blank.
Oh, they see Melvin.
Yeah, that's what Mel is short for.
Well, since you're here, Tim, would you like to do any? Would you like to do an intro? Do any promos? Anything? Sure.
Just Tim Olson, the only active member of Velvet Comics. Working on, I was working on scripts for Melvin 4 and Zen Odysseus #1.
All right.
Which
Are you looking for something there, Rick? Or
No.
if you haven't, well, you most likely haven't. The 5-page preview of Zen Odysseus. It's a kind of a parody of Droids, if you remember that cartoon from the 80s.
I do.
vaguely?
Shame on you for vaguely knowing that cartoon then. But I've been working on a full story for that. They're all going to be standalones. There's going to be one main story and then 2 B stories.
Yeah. So with that, but anyways, getting back into what we were talking about here. So one of the points I was pointing out, and I guess Metal already knew this, but Rick didn't. Mel Blanc was also the first voice of Woody Woodpecker.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure whether I knew it or not. I might have heard it once upon a time, but
yeah. Well, I didn't even know.
I might not have
realize
either.
that until recently here, since I've been since when I do watch the classic cartoons, so they do watch the classic cartoons. I've been looking up the trivia information on IMDb as well. So, so what I started to do just before you came in is because I would throw names out of famous. I started to throw out a name here and there, famous voice actors from the Golden Age, and then see if you guys could pick up on what's the first studio that comes to mind when you hear the name.
Oh, well, see, I probably won't get any of the other ones. The reason I knew as much as I did about Mel is because my dad, who knows everything about everything when it comes to like the entertainment industry, he's obsessed with actors and their background, really liked Mel. So anytime that he was in a show, he had to point it out to me as a little kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Tim, and I see you muted yourself, but hopefully you'll hear this. I asked you to.
I might know.
Muting doesn't shut off what you hear. It just shut up. You can't hear me talk.
Yeah. All right. Well. Anyway, so Dawes Butler.
Who?
Dawes Butler.
Never heard of him.
I recognize the name, but I have no idea for what.
I just mentioned him to you guys, but Dawes Butler was well known for his work with Hanna-Barbera. He was his most famous role was Yogi Bear.
Oh, hey, boo boo.
Hey, Timothy.
Along with
how are you today?
Other, Hanna-Barbera cartoons, including Quick Draw McGraw, Huckleberry Hound, Snagglepuss, and the like.
Hey, Baba Louie.
Now, before Hanna-Barbera had left MGM and formed Hanna-Barbera Productions, of course, Dawes Butler also did some work for Walter Lantz Productions. He was a voice of some of the other male characters in the Walter Lantz cartoons, like Chilly Willy, for example. He was like Smedley. I think he was all the other male characters. In fact, he was even Chilly Willy there.
Yeah, you just said.
Let's see. The only two that, let's see. Oh, Jackson Beck.
I have no clue.
Does the name Jackson Beck ring a bell to you guys?
Nope.
Not to me.
I'm thinking. I don't think so.
Jackson Beck was the third voice actor to voice Bluto in the Popeye series, starting with the famous studio shorts in the 40s and continuing on, continuing on until the shorts came to an end in the late 50s with famous studios and continuing the role, through the King Feature Syndicate TV series, among other, and many of the other ones. Now,
Did he used to shorten his name as Jack Beck? Because there was a Jack Beck that would do roles in the New Adventures of Superman as well.
Well, yeah, that might have been him, and that's where I was going with it. Aside from those, of course, now that was his most well-known role, and he of course did other roles for famous studios. He was actually the narrator. He was a narrator for the Superman shorts of 41 and 42. It's kind of funny because he did narration for that, and then he later went on to do narration for the Filmation's Adventure of Super. Kind of funny because Jackson Beck, Joan Alexander, and Bud Collyer all reprised their roles for the Filmation Superman series from previous roles they did for Fleischer and Famous in the shorts. And then Jackson Beck would also go on to be the narrator for the 80s G.I. Joe series.
Do you think that most of us don't know most of these except for Mel, because voice actors even today are generally known by many people?
Well, I think for the most part that could be true, but
you would never know Mark Hamill was the voice of the Joker unless somebody had said anything.
Yeah.
Now he's kind of just known for being the voice of the Joker.
Well, he's known for Luke Skywalker first.
Yeah, I know it recently. Also, Jim the Vampire, but that's only if you like what we do.
Luke
Mark Hamill also did the Hobgoblin in Spider-Man the Animated Series.
He also played a Templar Knight in the short-lived Nightfall series.
Mm-hmm. And then he also and of course he not only was the Joker throughout the DCAU that started up in the 90s, went into the 2000s, but he also lent his voice a couple times to Solomon Grundy too during that series.
I would say he's not really that good of a voice actor, and because all the voices he does that I've heard, it's just a modification of the Joker voice.
Yeah, but why does that not make him a good voice actor?
Because every voice he does is the same voice.
Well, so that's not what makes somebody a good or bad voice actor. You could say he doesn't have a wide range, but range, right? Like the key word there is acting, right? So does he actually get the role down, even if it's all in the same range? Is he expressive? Can you believe the acting? Because there's some people who have a pretty decent range that can't act.
Okay, maybe I should say I think it's all the same voice, because every time, even when he was the guy that trained Landry in Nightfall, he was still a Joker voice, just a little changed.
Yeah, and there's a lot of voice actors that it's just their voice. Like, honestly, one of the best voice actors is Keith David, and you can tell anytime it's Keith David. You hear his voice immediately, but he's got such good expression that you believe the character that he's playing.
Yeah. I mean, even as Jim the Vampire, it was still the Joker voice.
Yeah. Well, I know I've probably heard him in some other stuff for voices or whatever. Of course, the most recent thing that we've heard him in, or some of us have, is a Skeletor in the what's his name, He-Man, Kevin Smith's He-Man. Yeah, and of course that does sound real jokery. I think I have heard him into other stuff, and it's nowhere near as bad as the jokery.
I believe
Mignogna's another example of somebody who always does the same voice, but he's got a very good expressive range.
Well, he also with that same voice, or with that same voice with the emotive, what you're talking about there, metal. He also was the primary antagonist in a cartoon called Super Robot Monkey Force. He was that guy.
Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A stereotypical Japanese cartoon name. Just a bunch of words crammed together.
It was mostly making fun of Japanese cartoons, but it was a good show. It was pretty funny.
Kind of like what was it? That one movie they watched on Mystery Science Theater, Prince of Space. One of the dubs. It sounds like they kind of rammed a sentence together. So they made fun of that.
Yeah, I could kind of piece those together. I think they're different types of comedy on the same thing, but I could piece them together. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other earlier Mel Blanc credits that I just found out about too. He actually even did some work for MGM through Harmon Ising Productions. He was the voice of Tom Turkey in Tom Turkey and His Happy Harmonica, which is kind of a Thanksgiving themed kind of cartoon that they were just showing recently. So he's been around. There have been a number of people who've been around. Arnold Stang, who I know you guys probably wouldn't know as well. Arnold Stang was known for his most famous role was as Top Cat in the Hanna-Barbera cartoon of the same name. But prior to that, he was Herman of the Herman and Catnip shorts from Famous Studios. One of the novel Harvey.
Oh, Herman the Mouse? I know Herman.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Arnold Stang who did that voice.
What were I guarantee you, like the most Hanna-Barbera characters, it's always like there's always like the main group that everybody knows, and then there's just thousands of other Hanna-Barbera cartoons that no one's ever heard of or remembers.
Yeah, Hanna-Barbera really did have kind of like that pump and dump mentality where it's like, this is the thing that's working right now, so since it's working, we're going to try to do a bunch of other stuff, like throwing spaghetti at the wall in the same genre and see what sticks, and then we'll just throw away everything that doesn't.
Well, I mean, like when Adult Swim, when they had Harvey Birdman Attorney a lot, I had no idea that was a cartoon before that.
Or you've never seen Birdman?
Yeah, a Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I never knew there was a Space
Birdman.
Ghost
Well, that wouldn't necessarily surprise me too much because, like, Birdman and the Galaxy Trio, Space Ghost and Dino Boy, Mighty Mightor and Moby Dick, the 1967 Fantastic Four series, Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles, all those came out initially in the 60s. They were in reruns when I was watching them as a kid.
I've never seen them until the Adult Swim version.
I grew up with Boomerang, so I saw reruns of that all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I saw a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, it was always Yogi Bear, or like even mostly like maybe Quick Draw McGraw, or
The funny thing about Birdman
Jetsons.
too is like, aside from having wings and looking more like Hawkman because of that, he was blatantly a Superman ripoff because he got his powers from the sun, and if he needed to recharge, he had to fly up above the clouds to get solar energy.
Oh, well, yeah, they made fun of that really bad in the Harvey Birdman. Like, he was getting a checkup, and for some reason, the doctor was flashing the flashlight up his butt. He goes, "Oh yeah, you're probably gonna die, probably painfully." And then he picks up his golf clubs and leaves. Or like Harvey Birdman gets addicted to tanning cream.
Okay.
Because he gets his powers from the sun.
Well, you had to understand too. Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Those were more parodies of the original cartoons.
Yeah, well, it's because Adult Swim is a facet of Hanna-Barbera, right? So they had access to all of these titles, and they decided to make these kind of like satirical parody versions of them that brought in all of the Hanna-Barbera like properties.
Hey, did you get that thing I sent you?
Who, me or?
Oh, there's this running
No,
joke.
it was what's his name?
Hippo.
Harry Hippopotamus or whatever. He worked in the same office as him, and he would always say, "Hey, you get that thing I sent you?"
Yeah. Did you get that thing I sent you?
Well, actually, I think the most famous episode of Hardy Birdman was the one where, and they were making again. They were. This is the episode where they
Is it the Johnny
decided-
Quest episode?
Huh?
Is it the Johnny Quest episode? I think that's the
No,
most famous.
no,
episode.
that's not the one I was thinking of. I was thinking the one where Apache Chief spilled
Oh,
coffee on himself, and he cannot quote unquote grow.
I can no
yeah.
longer enlarge.
That's up there.
Especially in the mornings. Really? Not even a ding 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 ding.
That's definitely up there. I think the Johnny Quest episode is more famous though.
Especially that last part of the episode where he goes, that body double was perfect. You'd have to get a life-size body mold, but where would he get that?
But I was just looking up Mark Hamill's voice acting stuff. He was in Joseph King of Dreams as Judah, and I don't think he sounded like the Joker in that.
Ah, okay. So maybe
I have
maybe
not
at
seen
time-
that in a long time.
Well, yeah, even when he did Solomon Grundy for a couple episodes, he didn't sound like the Joker there either.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think most people just assume that's the only because like at least three of the voices he did all sound, you know, they either sound, they are the Joker obviously because that's the Joker,
Right.
or the Hobgoblin, or like as I said, the villain from Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go. You know,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
something
that
you
one
have
also
to consider.
sounded very-
do you think
Right,
he
something you have
pulled-
to consider
do you
is
think- Hmm.
yeah. And
Hey,
Hey, JR.
Vinu and Dina are our only true comic book saviors.
I don't know.
Hail, Metal, Mike, Rick, and Tim. Hey there, JR.
yeah,
okay. Tim,
Yeah.
Tim, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, do you think they pulled him aside and said, "Okay, for this voice, we want you to do anything but the Joker voice, for the love of God"?
No,
yeah,
I don't. I think it's the other way around. What you have to consider is production and casting directors, right? Because a lot of it has to do with direction, but the director will do what the production team wants him to do because the producers are the ones funding the show. And a lot of times people get typecasted in the way that that's what they want. People like the Joker, we want to hire Mark Hamill to do a voice like the Joker, even if he could do other things. It's I actually think this is the case for Vic because I actually have heard Vic do other like voices outside of his typical range. But Vic has such a recognizable voice that you can tell that he is being casted specifically to sound like himself because people like Vic's voice.
You know,
Ah,
Nick
okay.
Mignogna, right?
Yes,
Also-
that's what I'm talking
yes.
about. They want the voice of Edward Elric in everything, which is really close to his natural voice. So they just pay him to come in and talk like himself. But, you know, they still want him to be expressive and do acting. That's just the voice that they want him to do.
yeah. Also, he was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back cartoon doing
That's a cock
Scooby Doo.
knocker.
No,
Oh.
doing Scooby Doo.
He did also play the cock knocker in that as well. But
Oh, okay.
Although in this, it just gives him says Scooby Doo.
Maybe he wanted to be.
No. Sorry, the one where he played that was in there was a Jay and Silent Bob cartoon special that was Blunt Man and Chronic, and that's where he played the same villain that he played in the what's it called, the movie.
He was in Ultimate Avengers 2 as a character, Dr. Willard Ollier. I don't remember there's lots of other ones, but I'm just going with some more bigger things that we might know of. He was in Robotech: The Shadow Chronicles as Commander Daryl Taylor. And
I
I
was
don't
just
think
watching Mark Hamill play a training Templar knight in Nightfall.
Yeah, that's the one I.
he was in Tom and Jerry's Shiver Me Whiskers as the Skull.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Mark Hamill had developed a reputation for kind of playing the high pitched laugh psychotic villain. Because as we talked about, he did Joker, he did the Hobgoblin, he did a lot of these characters that he is known for doing are kind of the like high pitched psychotic, laughing,
It happens as equally in the voice acting industry as it happens in the live acting industry, right? Where you'll get a person who is just almost permanently typecasted as a role, and it's the only role that you see them in. And they pretty much the production team will have seen them play that role in something else, and like, we want that guy in our movie to play that role.
Yeah. Back in 2015, he played two characters in Lego DC Comics superheroes Justice League Attack of the Legion of Doom. He did the Trickster, which probably did sound like the Joker, and then he did Sinestro.
But anyways, let me get.
He actually played the Trickster before he played the Joker, right? In the live action. That's where the voice
he played
comes
the Trickster in the live action Flash movie Flash show back in the.
That was the first time he used the Joker voice. Before it was the Joker voice, yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, let me get kind of cut because JR is saying some stuff here, so I just couldn't have any respect for him pretending to train knights in honorable conduct after being such a green milk drinking C-word in Jedi. All right. He's not a hero to me anymore after being my childhood hero for 20 years. I guess JR is talking about Mark Hamill here. He sold himself out for a paycheck. He should have walked away from Jedi. And then all of Disney could have been different if he stood up like a man. Yeah, so.
So sounds like there's a lot of pain there. You let him down big time, Mark Hamill.
Oh, he did Zeus in The Little Mermaid, the original.
Not Zeus.
Yeah.
Zeus is a Greek god.
Yeah.
Zeus was not in the original Little Mermaid.
Oh, well, it's here. It's saying 1993.
Are you sure it's not talking about the Little Mermaid cartoon that ran on Disney?
Oh, maybe it says Hans Christian Andersen. Isn't it? Yeah, this is for television, not movie. Sorry.
Okay, so this is not even. This is the actual Little Mermaid fairy tale, not the Disney one.
Yeah. Okay, my bad.
The novel by Hans Christian Andersen. Yeah. It's still weird to put Zeus in it, but yeah, I could see it because the Little Mermaid is also connected to Greek. Her father is Triton, who is a Greek god.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking of this. Frank Welker. Now there's somebody whose career has basically spanned 7 decades because he started back in the state. He of course Frank Welker still doing Fred Jones' voice on Scooby Doo.
Yeah, I was saying, like, he's done so many different things, but Scooby Doo's probably going to be the only show that ever pops in anybody's head for him.
Yeah, but he also did a number of voices for the G1 Transformers cartoon back in the 80s. In fact, he did like half of the Decepticons.
Oh yeah, he was the voice of Megatron, wasn't he?
Yep. Not only was he the voice of Megatron, he was also the voice of Soundwave, all of Soundwave's cassettes, Skywarp.
So there were scenes where he was basically talking to himself.
Yeah,
there were a lot of scenes where he was talking to himself. Well, there were a number of scenes where actors and actresses were more or less talking to themselves because it was kind of an ensemble cast. As I just I mentioned some of those already that Frank Welker did just of the original Transformers. Some of the other voice actors, the late great Christopher Collins, aka Chris Latta, he was in Transformers. He was Starscream, Reflector, Sparkplug, And
But-
of course, a lot of did voices for GI Joe as well. Well, a lot of these guys did because the Hasbro stuff they had a lot of stock.
Well, you sort of see that's probably the thing is when you see Robin Williams in the movie what's the name of it? Where we pretend to be Mrs. Doubtfire at the beginning when he's doing animation, he's going back between 2 or 3 voices.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's see, Peter Cullen, who's known for being the voice of Optimus Prime in the G1 Transformers. He also was Ironhide in there, so you had him talking to himself a lot. He was also, of course, the bad guy in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, but Soundwave, if you talk, Soundwave and Megatron went back and forth a bit, but Soundwave talking, like most of his cassettes didn't make any sounds. Like, what's Ravage do? Growl? Laserbeak, I don't think really ever made any sounds.
He was, That was, but.
Yeah.
Why
Well,
not?
this is the thing about
Rumble, I
Frank.
think, made.
Right, because you were talking about Frank Welker. Well, the thing's about him too, right? If in those situations, we go back over to HB or right where he's done a lot of his voices. It's not just the main characters. If you go like the additional voices section on any random show, it's mostly Frank, right? Like you might have a couple of other people who also fill in additional voices, especially if like a woman's voice is needed. They'll usually have one of the other the female voice actors do it. But like most of the time, if there's like an animal sound, if it's just like a passerby or something, it's Frank. They're just having him do the additional voices.
Oh yeah. Because
I was gonna say,
and you see this with Frank in a number of different occasions because not just in Transformers, but also GI Joe. He did the voices of the animals. He did Polly's voice. He did Timber's growls. He did Freedom's cause, and Frank Welker also provided the kind of the grunts and the growls of Bronx and Gargoyles as well.
I was gonna say to Rick, why not? They're literally George Clooney in South Park. He was the voice of a gay dog, and all he said was "woof," and he supposedly was the voice of that dog.
Somebody needs to voice the animals too. It still counts as a voiceover role, and you don't necessarily want a real animal's voice most of the time, right? Because it won't necessarily mesh with the stylization of the series. Sometimes you just want a talented person who can sound kind of like an animal because it'll fit better.
Yeah. You just think for something like that, it's not so much you would think that they would, get a dog to voice it. It's just like, oh, let's just go record some dog somewhere,
Why not? Because you wouldn't have to pay the dog, and you just need one bark, and you could just kind of add it whenever.
Yeah, exactly. Like just go home, record your own dog.
What's my favorite fruity basket? How dare you, sir?
Well, I don't know if
Hey,
he's referring to Fruit Basket, the anime, or if he's just referring to like a normal fruit basket. So,
well, if I don't think it's the anime because it should be Fruits Basket, but if it was, my answer would be Hatsuharu Soma, the guy who's a cow. I think he's the best character in there.
I like Toru, the main
Toru,
character.
Are we talking about favorite
saying
Japanese cartoon character?
No,
Well,
there's a
anime,
series called
yeah.
Fruits Basket.
Oh, well, I have no idea what that is.
Me neither.
I've been meaning
I have
to,
the entire comic if you want it.
I have been meaning to
What is
consume
it, one
more
issue?
manga and anime because I'm going to be adding elements of that to Melvin and various other series going forward.
Well, what's also kind of interesting is how some of the
There's 12
voice
volumes, right?
actors that we
12
know,
volumes.
Crispin Freeman, Yuri Lowenthal, they've also branched out into Western animation roles as well.
Yeah.
I've been watching the Young Justice series as part of my afternoon blocks, and of course, Crispin Freeman on Young Justice has done basically all three of the Harpers in there. the guy who now is going by, because I'm on season 3 now of Young Justice. So the guy who's now going by Will Harper instead of Roy Harper, Red Arrow, and then of course Arsenal, the original Roy Harper, and Jim Harper, Guardian. So.
Yeah. Well, even like the dubbing industry has a lot of those cases that you're talking about with Walker, where there might be scenes where the person's only talking to themselves. Specifically, in Dragon Ball, there's a lot of times where it's like Chris Sabat's just talking to himself. If they're like a Piccolo and Vegeta are talking, or even more, there are times where like Sonny Strait is just talking to himself because he's like voicing multiple characters, not just in that show, but in like many shows. You're talking about someone with range. I don't know if there's anybody in the dubbing industry who has as much range as Sonny Strait. He can even sound like other, like his contemporaries, believably.
Well, it sounds like that one guy was doing a lot of harping.
Should we punish Rick by sending him away?
No. I mean, I don't think I even got got the pun there, but
harping, doing more than one.
No, Rick.
Well, actually, in the dubbing side of it, though, granted, I think Dragon Ball really is the only one that I know of where, you have voice actors doing like multiple characters. Because usually, with the most part, most anime, it's like one dub voice actor for one character. It's like,
well, usually in the ones where there are more limited roles, right? Dragon Ball is probably one of the few cases where the total roles of a season might be small, but you still have the same person voicing multiple people. But even if you go back to Yu Yu Hakusho, there's a limited main cast, but they interact with so many side characters that you will see that most of the people are doing that character and additional voices. So you will still have many of scenes.
Yeah, like Mike McFarlane did a few in that, but they'd also have cases where they might have one voice actor be one character in one arc, and then they come back and do another character in another arc.
Yeah,
Eric Vale's an example of that, I believe. Jerry Jewell as well. One of those two, but usually it is just one to one. Usually, don't have.
Well, especially now because the industry is bigger than it used to be. There were more cases in the past when there was like the studios were a lot smaller and they only maybe had access to 6 people to do the voices anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, albeit they still had quite a few people at Funimation. Some of which I'm not even sure you really see anywhere. Like they may have only done 1 or 2 roles for Funimation and then disappeared. Like for example, there was this one guy who did the voice of, can't remember the character's name, but he was the one who, if he stepped on your shadow, he could control you basically. During the Chapter Black saga.
Yeah.
The guy who dubbed his voice, the guy's name, as I recall, was Iman Nazemzadeh. And that was like the only role he did for Funimation, apparently.
Esato Kido.
Akito, yeah, I believe that might have been it.
Yeah, or you go over to Ocean, and they couldn't keep people. Like you go through a series, and there somebody might be voiced by 3 different people by the end of the series.
Well, that wasn't completely true because they did have Ocean. The from what I understand, the Vancouver crew was a pretty tight knit group. You had the Dobson brothers, you had Kirby Morrow, you had Sam Vincent and Gabe Kuth, you had Kelly Sheridan.
Yeah, but what they would do is they would often bring in other people to fill in roles, right? So that they would have more diversity of cast. But the problem was some of their shows, like take Ranma 1/2 for example, would go on for so long that they bring somebody in to voice a role and they couldn't get them back by the time that role came back around. So then they would have to cast somebody else to play that character again. And by the time the series is over, they might have 3 people.
There was one particular anime that did kind of happen where they pretty much almost had to replace almost the entire cast. I think only 1 or 2 of them stayed over from when they originally started recording. Meizani Koku.
Yeah.
Meizani
Dragon
Koku,
Ball actually had that problem too, the ocean dub of that.
Ocean dub of what had that problem as well?
Dragon Ball.
Yeah. Well, what happened though, at least with Meizani Koku, was that I guess they took a long hiatus at one point. And like they dubbed a portion of it, and then took a long hiatus, and they just couldn't get any of the I think only 1 or 2 of the I think like Ellen Kennedy was one of the one or two who came back. Ellen Kennedy, she was the one who did the main female protagonist. Not go to the apartment manager.
Yeah, but like in Dragon Ball, the ocean dub actually had 3 different voice actors, or Goku, the final one, who's not with us anymore. But they've had Goku was replaced twice in that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, who's the one who's not with us anymore?
Kirby Morrow.
Okay, I didn't even realize he did that voice. Yeah. I know Kirby. I know some of Kirby's work. I know he was the Hiromi, not Hiromi, but he was the lead in Visions of Escaflowne. He provided the voice of Cyclops in X-Men Evolution. He was, of course, Miroku in Inuyasha. And they actually ended up having to replace him when they did Yasahime because he's
not with us anymore.
Early on in that series.
Yeah, I remember that was a big bummer when we had to go over the recasting on that. Like a lot of Inuyasha fans were kind of bummed. It's like, well, there's the physical limitation of him not being here to be able to reprise the role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what's kind of funny too, when they got Yasahime going, I guess this was an example of how the remote recording is affecting the industry now, because now you'd have a lot of the voice actors from Ocean Studios still reprising their roles, and you have a lot of the newer roles being taken over by the LA, because the newer roles are being recorded here, down in like Bang Zoom and Studiopolis, I believe. So no, Erica Mendez is she's the one who the white-haired one. Morgan Berry, who I think originally was from Dallas and then moved out here. There are a number of voice actors and actresses in the dub voice industry who moved from other parts of the country. Megan Hollingshead originally was out of New York. She moved out here. Number of the New York voice actors, in fact, Crispin Freeman started out in New York. He was Zangeist or Zangist in Slayers. I don't know if you ever saw Slayers metal.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Yeah, he was that. Let's see, Veronica Taylor moved out.
I think that's actually one of the ones where you're supposed to pronounce the U at the end. Zangetsu. Is that the character's name that you're looking for?
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Carrie Karanen came out to LA from New York. She originally of course, she originally did a lot of work. She was like I knew her best as Kumiku. She did the English voice for Kumiku Yamaguchi and Goku-sen. That's a pretty fun anime to watch. right, some interesting twist with that too. Anyway, I need to step away from the computer for a moment. If you guys want to talk amongst yourselves there, I'll be right back.
I think Rick was already talking amongst himself.
No, I was talking to my cousin.
Can you bring to me? Yes, I love the smell of lavender.
What can we talk about? Will we wait for Mike to come back?
The scents.
We could talk about the bodacious bikini battle babes
Talk
of British
about
Bay.
things for-
Okay.
I said,
Which is
That's
the image that's on my screen.
I have to go into
Oh.
my game.
Okay. That was just a lot of bees.
It is a lot of bees. That's why I made the title that.
Oh.
I have to go into my game and see if it works.
Hmm.
I wrote to load it for the first time.
Of a picture of this this lifeguard here. Is going to go fight that giant sea serpent with a hurling stick.
Coolamando, I think.
Yeah,
Jair
not
says
that
regular Sesame Street of bodacious babes.
regular Sesame Street. Huh.
Yeah, I guess so.
What kind of Sesame Street is that?
Best guy?
I don't know. The Rule 34 Sesame Street.
Today's show is brought to you by the letter S for suggestive.
Letter X for the rating.
And the number 34.
Oh, the number 69.
The letter O for oh my.
What is Rule 34 anyways? I forget.
Oh, the Rule 34 is of the internet is if it exists, there is porn of it.
There's a porn version of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Which means there are some really messed up people out there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Predation.
Oh, that's because of the story I'm making called the Bodacious Bikini Battle Babes of British Bay.
How is that going?
It's going pretty good. It's pretty good. I get to draw a lot of TNA.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
The way God intended it.
Yeah.
You get to
And,
draw a lot of wrestling.
It also takes place on a beach in Ireland, so I get to draw hot babes fighting crazy Celtic sea monsters.
And drinking
the
Guinness?
main character there is using an oversized hurling stick for the sport hurling to beat up a monster that is probably over 1,000 times her size. But she's a magical girl, so that's why. All the lifeguards on the beach are magical girls.
Question:
Okay.
Do
Are you going to put a leprechaun in there?
Do they all drink Guinness?
No, most of them don't because they're underage.
Oh,
for drinking.
Then how can they be in Ireland? Damn it!
Well, people are born in Ireland. There is a certain point of their life where they become old enough to drink.
Right, but I thought all.
I'm
Irish
sure
people
some
drink.
of them engage in underage drinking. Also, some of them are college age too, so I'm sure some of them drink too. I'm just not focused of that on the story. Actually, the premise of the story is that this dangerous job, like you opt into being a magical girl in this case. You take it as a job, and many of them even die in the line of duty, but they still go for this like internship to do this job as a magical girl because it looks really, really good on their resume.
If you survive.
Yeah, if you survive, you're pretty much set from that point on. But Patty here, she's not a college student. She actually lives here full time. She's the only one that has to deal with this stuff year round. And she's seen a lot of people come and go being a lifeguard since she was 14.
No, knowing that you're a video game guy, Metal, I'm wondering, considering what you were just talking about here, have you ever played Rumble Roses before?
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
on kind of a racy wrestling type game.
Well, there
kind
are
of a-
some really weird fighter games out there.
What was that, Tim?
There are some really strange fighting games out there. There was a video about it, like the really odd ones. They also had like a video. I mean, a video about the top 10 Mortal Kombat knockoffs that I thought were hilarious.
Well, the cool thing about Rumble Roses was that it was done in UK's WWE SmackDown engine from like that same year. I think it was like 2003. But like a lot of the Japanese people just weren't interested in playing a WWE SmackDown game. So they're like, you know what the Japanese would be interested in? Watching a lot of hot women wrestle with each other. So they made a game like that. And then it turned out to also be equally popular into the West because that's the thing we share in common. TNA.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
No,
And
Mike,
they'd have some interesting wagers if you lost. You know.
Yeah. They treated it almost like you were watching an anime about it, right? Like they hyped up the drama and everything, which the drama in wrestling and anime aren't really all that different anyway. A lot of people even refer to wrestling as like redneck anime.
Well, they also refer to it as redneck, as kind of white trash soap operas.
Yeah, because there's a lot of drama in there.
Okay, so I guess the first story I was going to make an eight pager and it's going to end on a splash page.
sounds like it could be splashy. Make sure you don't get wet.
Rick and his puns.
Damn it, Rick.
Spinning those puns there, Ricky boy.
Me?
Oh, I know.
Never.
Hey there, Ricky boy. Spinning those puns out of ya.
The pipes are calling.
You know, I the other day when I guess Rex on his channel Devil Flyer, he opened up the StreamYard, and I went in and I started doing, and I just acting like I was reading a cue card or whatever, talking about my show here, and I started doing it in a Irish Scottish Irish accent, and
Once more.
and Rex actually got scared of it. Like, Mike, okay?
Right.
I wonder why he'd be getting scared of you doing a voice like that.
Maybe he's got a phobia of Celtic people. Celtophobia.
So I don't think I heard one way or another. Are there any leprechauns in this?
Well, this is just a 16-page, I guess, ashcan. Once you hit 16 page, it's kind of hard to call it a short, right? I'll call it an ashcan, right? It's just a 16-page ashcan that deals with this one beast. I don't know if I'll revisit the story in the future. If I do, I probably won't be the person drawing it. I'm just doing this one little bit. It's a fun story. I've got enough background for it that I could do more. I've just got too much on my plate to dedicate to yet another story. I just need to get the 16-page ashcan out.
Oh yeah, that's
the ashcan I'm doing.
16, right?
Yes, it's for the Sweet 16 contest.
The ashcan I'm doing is like four pages.
I thought about entering that, but I have no idea what I'd do.
Well, probably best not to start now because you only have like a couple weeks to do it.
Yeah.
No, actually,
I'm already like 7 pages in, so it's like I've got time to finish.
Actually, kind of go off to another. I asked you two what you did for. So, Tim, how did your Thanksgiving?
It was all right. Had to work the day after Thanksgiving, and then after that, I had 2 days off.
So would you say it was a Black Friday for you, having to work?
Do not make me come up to Canada, Rick. I will hunt you down.
Oh boy.
Don't make me go Barry Gibbs on you.
Oh boy. Rick and his puns. Punching those punnies. Actually, what I was also pointing out earlier, it wasn't just the voice actors who worked for, who basically worked for a number of different studios. There were some like William Hanna and Joseph Barbera before they started Hanna-Barbera Productions. They worked for MGM for a while there.
Oh yeah, it's just like a lot of the animators for these companies. They started out at one that started out early, and then they got enough of their own money, and they started their own company.
Chuck Jones had been a long-time name at Warner Brothers, and then eventually moved on to MGM for a while.
Yeah, Tex Avery was in a very similar spot.
Yeah, I think some of the ones from that started out with Disney, they ended up making their own ones.
Now, I don't know if you guys knew this, but even
7 times before he discovered Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. We're not talking about that necessarily, Anita.
It's a very interesting story.
Yes.
But even though Walter Lantz Productions, he was known for Woody Woodpecker was his name, was his main character that he was known for. But prior to the talkies showing up, that Walter Lantz Productions did a lot of the Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoons. You guys know
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. You don't know Oswald?
I don't think so.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me because those are 85, 90-year-old cartoons. Those were back in the 30s. Okay, those were the silent cartoons before.
My favorite cartoon character comes from 1919. So.
Yeah, what Felix?
Cat?
Yes, Felix the cat. I love Felix. I used to draw him all the time.
Van Buren Studios.
Yeah.
Did that make you a bit catty?
No, but I might start getting. But Felix the Cat's one of those characters that I drew so much growing up that I could draw him in pretty much any pose from memory. I've got him muscle memory down. I don't even be looking at the page.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to Felix.
Wonderful cat. Yeah.
I did a quiz on animated characters recently, and I got 38 out of 40. I think it was 40, but I only got 2 wrong. So. And that's one was Beavis and Butthead. It's okay, which one's which? And I think it was another one that or close to that was okay, which one's which?
Of course, Beavis and Butthead from MTV Animation, and then of course they had the spin-off of Daria. Daria, I actually watched. Daria was pretty interesting.
It's not the only spin-off.
King of the Hill.
Hank Hill was their neighbor. Now, when he had his own show, they completely reworked everything about Hank's history, but he started out as the neighbor of Beavis and Butthead. It was the same creator, so...
Yeah, Mike Judge.
Yep. The Beavis and Butthead, I think, had already come back. King of the Hill is supposed to be getting a return. It just hasn't hit yet, but it's supposed to be picking up kind of where it left off, but with a slight time jump to where Bobby's in college.
Well, it's kind of funny because there are some of those adult-oriented animated comedies like that. They did I know I did recently read something in terms of my This Day Meets History segment where Futurama took like a few years hiatus.
Futurama kept getting canceled and coming back.
Yeah, I saw that quite a bit. I think King of the Hill is probably another one. Family Guy, I think, may have been at it. Well,
Yeah, Family Guy's been canceled no less than 5 times.
Yeah.
Probably more at this point. Nah, I think after the 5th canceling, they kind of just rolled with it. Like Fox just decided, no, you're here to stay.
That is so odd. I'm sorry.
What, that they were canceled 5 times or something else?
No, something else. I'm literally looking at the layout for Mixum, and they changed the layout of the layout that shows all your orders.
Wow.
That's kind of threw me off.
Okay.
That's all. I was
They're just mixing them up.
You know, as I've been watching like a lot of the Golden Age cartoons, right? And I've been reading some of the trivia bits from IMDb. They talk a lot about how, particularly in the Golden Age period, like particularly in the 40s, how they were very attentive to detail when it came to the animation. It does. I don't know if you guys have ever, when you watch it, you feel like you're kind of there with the characters because that's how the animation was. That's kind of cool.
so I believe the first story for Zed and Odysseus, I think it's like 7 or 8 pages. What should be the length of the 2 B stories?
Well, I mean, that depends on what you want your total page count to be.
Yeah. I mean, what's a good size? What's a good size though for?
Well, let's see. You said it's going to be around 8ish.
8ish for the main story.
Yeah.
Well, if you go with 20
20
pages,
is a pretty. Well, 24 because you'd have to actually round up, but you can have like a landing page and a closing page or whatever. Like you could fit a credits page in there. Because you always have to print around it, or you could do 20 even.
20
if you don't want that. 20 is not a bad page size. So if you're going with 8ish, then you would have to pull in like 14 for the rest. But then that means those stories are going to be pretty long, right? That means they have to even out to an average. Well, I guess you could do 12. You could do 12. Sorry, I don't know why I said 14.
Well,
You'd have to even out to 6 pages each.
Well,
or you could have one that's like another 8 and a 4, or.
Well, I mean, 8. That'd be like the 2 B stories could be like 4 pages each, and then you'd have the front cover, credit page, and then back cover, and then something else.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that.
Yeah, you could make them each, 4 or 5 pages. Get another 10 pages in there and just do 2 pages of filler, 2 to 3 pages of fillers, ads or whatever.
You do is you go and you ask people who have read your other comics, like Melvin, to submit letters to you and have a letters page to take up page in the back, space in the back.
That would be cool. That would be cool. No one does that anymore.
I think that's something a lot of the Golden Age companies did a lot.
Yeah,
they did that all the way up to the 90s.
I have a letter section on my site, but nobody writes in.
Don't you feel sad about that?
Or you can get a bunch of your fan art and put it on a page.
I tried for Melvin 3 to get people to submit like ads, but no one took me up on it. So that's why
I know.
That's why a bunch of fan art kind of put in the back. Y'all blew it. Looking at you, Rick. No, just kidding.
You never even asked.
He asked me.
I was just remembering another guy, from early, like Paul Freed's another one who's probably known for his voice work in the Rankin Bass Christmas specials.
Oh, yeah. I prefer
the Burgermeister in Santa Claus is Coming to Town, for example. He did some work for Walter Lantz as well. Did some characters, including like Charlie and Junior Barry and the Barry family, among other things.
I preferred the Mad Monster Party. You've heard of the Mad Monster Party?
I don't think I've heard of Monster.
That was Rankin Bass. Bash. Bass? Bash.
Rankin Bass and Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass. Those are the two guys who Rankin Bass. They were known for their Christmas. Now that you mentioned that, I don't think I've ever seen it, but I've heard of it. Rankin Bass, of course, they were most well known for their Christmas specials. But the other thing they were well known for was the original Thundercats cartoon back in the 80s. And then, of course, kind of the spin. Well, I don't know. It wasn't really a spin-off, but it came out like a year afterwards. Silverhawks.
Yeah, it's sad though. The only reason why I know about Rankin Bass and Mad Monster Party is because of the Misfits. That's the only reason why I know.
The Misfits.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, the band.
They did a cover of the Monster Mash when they in the 90s when they did the lineup without Danzig. They had Michael Graves.
Yeah, it's only Timothy's favorite band. This is like
the whole freaking
I don't know if you
knew.
I don't know if you knew this or not, but do you know there was actually a cartoon all-female band also called the Misfits?
Yes, I know about Jim and the Holograms and their arch nemesis rival band, the Misfits.
I love Jim. Jim is such a good show.
I almost hate that cartoon because of that.
Because she's truly outrageous.
But it's so hard to hate it.
I
That's
know.
the problem.
And I believe Jim the Holograms is another film made, like we talked a little bit about, well, there's He-Man, there's She-Ra.
That cartoon was rotoscoped as well, right?
There was a lot of rotoscoping in it, but there was a lot of just like we call it wing it animation. A lot of just out of their head. They drew it on the page without needing reference, but there was a mix.
Yeah. I think if I had to do an animated cartoon, I'd actually rotoscope, but that had to have actors act it out for me. And then people.
Well, in the digital age too, rotoscoping is way easier than it used to be.
Yeah. Then again, is this whole thing about finding actors to act it out for me. It's like I don't know.
Well, that's why, like in He-Man, all the men had like the same body type because most of them were played by the same guy for the rotoscoping.
Well, I know. Well, okay. I don't know if you knew this, but there have been like three He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series. There was the original Filmation one from back in 1983.
Yes, we know about those.
Actually, 4.
Yeah. Then everyone.
The original, the new He-Man, the 2002, and unfortunately, Kevin Smith.
Well, I don't know if that one. Is that one really called He-Man and the Master of the Universe?
It's just called Masters of the Universe, but it kind of counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only because the only reason is because Metal would know this from a particular site. They only list the 1983, 2002, and 2021.
Yeah, because the newer one sucks.
Well, 2021 would be the newer one.
Yeah,
they might not be. They might not be counting the new adventures of He-Man.
Well, from what I understand, there's actually two newer He-Man. Like one is called there's the Kevin Smith one, and then there was actually another.
Oh yeah, that makes a 5.
That actually a lot of people were saying was actually a good one.
No, the one Rick is talking about is the 1990 New Adventures of He-Man, which only lasted for a single season.
Oh.
Yeah.
He-Man.
So that actually makes 5. There's been 5 series.
Actually, no. With George's technique, which is using computer animation, not computer animation. Those little digital figures he uses to pose, and then he draws over them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can easily animate stuff like that way.
Yeah, a lot of people even do something similar to rotoscoping with that. Though now a lot of people don't even do that. They take another step. If you're good with Blender and you've got the models now, you can actually put like strokes on the model in certain spots, flatten the lighting, add like a cell shading, and a lot of people just make 3D objects look 2D. And a lot of people can't tell. I've got a good eye for this. I can look at a show and I can tell when they're using a 3D object. It was actually one of the things that I gave praise to Pluto is I could tell that they only used 3D objects when they needed to, like for like large cityscapes and panning scenes. But you look at a show like Invincible, there's less in season 2 than season 1, but season 1 had a lot of just like models that were flattened to look 2D.
That's something I gotta watch. Is that all out now? Or was it all released?
Oh no, they're doing it week by week.
Uh-huh. And how many episodes is total season 2?
I could look real quick. I think episode 4 might have just come out.
Yeah, I need to watch the in-between thing too.
They come out on Fridays for Invincible.
Well, I recently finished rewatching the 2002 He-Man and the Master of the Universe.
I liked that one.
That one's pretty cool. And the thing about that one too is that now I don't know if they did that with the 2 newer ones, but much like they did back in the one in the 80s, the 2002 one also had the PSA at the end.
Yeah, for the first season. I think it stopped it in the second season.
Oh, for the newer one? For the newest one?
No, the 2002.
No, they did it both seasons. Both seasons they had the PSA at the end.
I didn't think they had it with the Snake Man.
They did. Yeah.
If you think about it, they didn't have He-Man and the Masters of the Universe in the new one because it wasn't inclusive enough.
No, they just didn't want to lie to you because they killed He-Man off in the first episode, so it really wasn't about that. That's why his name wasn't in the new. It was just the Masters of the
Smith one. That's the Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kevin Smith one didn't have that.
I hate Kevin Smith. I hate
at least unlike Scott Pilgrim, who has his name in the title, the He-Man one didn't actually have the name He-Man in the title of the show. It was just Masters of the Universe.
That should have been everybody's first clue.
Well,
just like when Disney bought up Marvel and they said we're gonna make it into a lifestyle brand. Nobody picked up on that.
Yeah, but even
the thing too is with that too is that a lot of with the Kevin Smith one there was a lot Kevin Smith was getting accused of basically bait and switching because the trailers they would put, even with the most recent trailers for the upcoming season,
there was a lot of He-Man in the trailers.
Yeah. They basically in a debate and switch, and they have He-Man in the trailers, and yet He-Man is not really integral to the show. If anything, in Kevin Smith's version, Tila is the main character.
Yeah. Which
and
again,
Tila isn't Tila.
Most of I wish she acted like Tila, but most of these shows I would not mind if they wanted to make somebody else the main character. If A, it was written well, and B, they weren't trying to bait and switch you. They just told you from the start.
Yeah,
like if they called it Tila, Sorceress of Grayskull or something, and they told you exactly what the show is about. It's like, I mean, I like the character of Tila. I might be interested in watching a show about her if you're honest about it.
Right. But
if they could write her good.
Well, if they went with the original source, because in the original in the one back in the 80s that Filmation did, and I think they really kind of solidified this a little bit more in the 2002 one as well, where they hinted at the idea that Tila was the sorceress's daughter, and she was eventually her destiny was to eventually take over for the sorceress as the Sorceress of Grayskull.
Which they kind of went with in Kevin Smith's, because his is supposed to kind of be a follow-up to the original series in a way. I don't think it's a good one. I said it's supposed to be. I think Kevin Smith was way over his head and should not have been involved in this project whatsoever. But
And that's from a guy claiming to be a big fan of He-Man growing up, and
yeah,
I think everybody on that. I think everybody was calling BS on that.
So the thing is, I think he could have been, right? But the problem is Kevin Smith is a very different person than he was when he grew up, right? Kevin Smith is a very different person than he was a decade and a half ago, because at a certain point in his life, he had a heart attack that basically completely changed like his perspective and attitude on everything.
He decided to become what, a little bitch?
You actually mean that because he had that he actually became a woke piece of garbage because he had a heart attack? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, he was always leaning on that side, but he was like an edgy boy before that, right? Like he was willing to skirt the edge. He was willing to do the type of humor that would get you in trouble. Then after that, he kind of became more soy.
Oh, boy.
Not too bad the heart attack didn't take him then.
Oh boy.
I would never say that. It's just I think if you have those life perspective changes and stuff, you should move yourself out of certain areas, right? Like if you want to write more heartfelt stories, don't write something that involves a heavy action character like a He-Man. If you want to write subversion, maybe don't write something that involves a character that somebody loves like He-Man. Like there's still things he could do. He just needs to move out of the arena that he previously was in. Remember, this is the same guy who made Man cry.
Yeah. But the thing is, with He-Man, there was lots of heartfelt stories. He could have written a good heartfelt story for it, and people wouldn't have minded.
Well, no, somebody could have. I don't think he could have.
The thing is, though, I don't like people like that because they literally spit in the face of fans everywhere. It's like,
yeah, that's why I said like they shouldn't be working on an icon that other people like. Like there are arenas that a person can still be in. I don't think he is in the arena he belongs in.
No.
I don't think he knew enough about the characters or whatever. Never did any research. It's like, well, it
might have been that he may know the character and just try to stick the middle finger up too.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people. There's actually things in that show where you can tell he knew things about the original show.
Yeah.
Right. The idea though was his current perspective. He thinks there were issues with those characters, right? So they have to be changed.
Well, I think of it like, well, you guys remember the Dukes of Hazzard movie that they did, like 15, 20 years ago? I was with my buddy. We rented it from Blockbuster, I think it was, or somewhere. And because he hadn't seen it, and I saw it, and I didn't really want to see it again, but he just wanted to see it. I watched the extras on it. The guys that made that movie thought they were honestly paying homage to the original TV series. And if you watch that movie, I'm not sure how you could watch that movie and think anybody was trying to pay homage to the Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, there was only two reasons to watch that movie, and her name was Jessica Simpson.
Jessica Simpson as Daisy Dukes and her Daisy Dukes.
Yeah. She didn't even play Daisy very well, but it was still the only reason to watch that movie.
It wasn't that bad.
I don't know. I'd probably watch anything with Burt Reynolds in it anyway.
Yeah. Well, who was he? Boss Hogg?
Yeah, he played Boss Hogg. Like Bo and Luke were played by Sean William Scott and Johnny Knoxville. Which I could not think of. I like both of those people. I could not see them as Bo and Luke, though. That was like one of my big problems with that movie.
I think most people see Bo and Luke as Tom Wopat and John Schneider.
Yeah. But the thing is, like,
at that point,
even Bill, right? Well, they definitely would be way too old. But, like, these guys weren't idiots back in the Dukes of Hazzard. They were kind of dumb because they were doing, like, risky stuff, but they weren't like idiots, right? Like they knew what they were doing. They knew they were getting in trouble, and they were also that kind of classical like TV star look too. They were broad shouldered big guys by comparison to the actors that they casted for them. I just think like a lot of that movie was misunderstanding the Dukes of Hazzard.
What did you think of the A-Team movie?
Mixed opinions. I thought it was really fun, especially when they decided to try to fly a tank. Like there's definitely some fun scenes in it. It's rewatchable.
Or how they tricked B.A. Baracus onto that plane.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill you, fool!
If I were to compare it to the Dukes of Hazzard, I think it definitely did more justice to the original series.
Yeah. Do you ever think they'll do a Rockford File movie?
I hope not in today's age.
Okay, missed all that. Oh, talking about redoing movies, they're redoing the Fall Guy. They're doing a Fall Guy movie. There is a
it's
trailer out for it, and it is horrible.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. I don't want them to redo. It would be cool. Like at the same time, I want them to redo some of these old stuff because you could add some like dynamic effects and visuals and stuff that were never in these original series. But I also don't want them to redo them because none of these people know how to make anything good anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be as bad as the Dukes.
Well, it's also part of the problem too is that they also just, instead of staying true to the source material, a lot of these people just want to try to use these properties, these IPs, to like shove their own agendas in your face.
Yeah, well, some of them it's not about doing their own agendas. If you take the Dukes for example, it's just they didn't understand the source material.
Yeah, I think, and that's what I was saying. It's not even that I don't think they didn't watch it, right? Because there's a lot in the Dukes of Hazzard where you could tell that they did go and do some research on it. I think they just misunderstood what they were watching. Like they didn't have a good comprehension of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's because Hollywood nowadays thinks that anything from the South is just, just those dumb hicks who just, they got to have their gods and their guns and all that.
Oh yeah, and this was back in 2005, right? Like it's only gotten worse since then.
Yeah, and like I said, the Fall Guy was almost as bad. Or it looks like it's almost gonna be as bad. Like actually, I thought the one that they redid was the A-Team was I thought fairly good. I think it.
Yeah,
was
we were just talking about that one too.
Okay, unfortunately,
like I've mixed opinions on that, but I think by comparison, like it's a much better movie, and it's got a lot of like really good, rememberable scenes that make it rewatchable.
Yeah, like they're flying a tank.
Like I think it's pretty good.
I think they
I think they did
directing a tank.
Mostly justice to the characters for the most part. There was a few parts where they dropped the ball, but you could tell that at least they were trying to make the characters like the original. There was an attempt there.
Yeah, the only one I think they fell a little short on was BA.
I don't know if you guys knew this, but did you know that the Dukes of Hazzard actually did have a cartoon?
Yes, and I watched it. I actually had it downloaded at one point. If I can never get my information off my old hard drive, and I'm probably gonna have to send that in to get it off. I'm just not sure how much it's gonna cost yet.
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny because in the '80s they did that on with a number of. They did it with the Dukes. They did it with Laverne and Shirley, the Fonz.
Yeah, well, I think they did.
They even had a Punky Brewster cartoon.
Yeah, which is better than the live action, in my opinion. But the thing for the Dukes one, I think they only did that because of John Schneider and Tom Wopat being on strike at that time. That's when it came out.
Yeah.
Because they put them in the cartoon instead of on the thing.
Well, yeah, they eventually were replaced with and that last season of the Dukes of Hazzard.
No. That was the 5th season that they were replaced, and because there was such much of a stink about them being replaced, everybody wanted Bo and Luke back, and they came back at the end of the 5th season, and they were there for 2 more seasons. and they were
Listen,
replaced.
I think we can all
of course,
agree that the best movie remake of a TV show is clearly the 1990s Flintstones movie.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty good.
Do you think they should?
That's a cartoon too.
Do you think they should blend the Flintstones in with Doom and call it Yabba Dabba Doom?
I don't think they should, but I think somebody on the internet should. I mean, get like somebody on Newgrounds or something. I would watch that.
I'll make it into a video game where you start off with a billy club and you work your way up to the shotgun.
Yeah, just Fred going through like hordes of like demonic dinosaurs or something. I'd play it.
Well, there you go, Tim. There's a new book for you. Yabba Dabba Doom.
Yabba Dabba Doom. No, I don't do parodies because parodies usually are. Okay, maybe Zed and Odysseus could be considered kind of a parody, but that's.
Oh, it is a parody.
No, it's an homage.
An homage. Thank you very much.
Okay, then make an homage. Yabba Dabba Doom.
Well, how we're talking about the Flintstones here for a minute, I was just thinking how, so when you had the Pebbles and Bam Bam show, and you had Pebbles was voiced by Sally Struthers. You guys remember what Sally Struthers was probably most famous for?
No.
All in the Family.
Right, Gloria Bunker Stivic.
For some reason, those names sound terrible. Pebbles.
You had Fred Flintstone, Wilma Flintstone, Pebbles Flintstone. You had Barney Rubble, Betty Rubble, and
I think she also played Charlene Sinclair in Dinosaurs.
Yeah. Well, also, I think she was the Flying Nun in the Flying Nun.
No, the Flying Nun was Sally Field, actually.
Oh, Sally Field.
You're thinking of a different Sally.
Yeah.
But Struthers was
Sally
definitely
Field
in
was,
Dinosaurs.
of course, well known for playing Gidget as well.
No, Gidget was by
Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
What was that?
Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Gidget. Was that her name?
No. Her name was.
No,
was that
Gidget I'm talking about. There's a live action comedy from Screen Gems called Gidget.
Okay,
Wait till you see my Gidget. You wanna throw your Valentine.
I have no idea what you're talking about now.
Gidget, I think of
Sally Field
Frankie
was in Mrs.
Avalon.
Doubtfire.
Frankie and what's her name? Annette Avalon.
Yeah.
Well, no, Annette.
Well, Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello.
Yeah, because she was known as Gidget.
Yeah.
That, of course, that was a combination for girl midget, although she wasn't really a midget, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And she was also what was the cat's name? She was in Homeward Bound as the cat.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sassy, was that her name? I'm trying to remember.
Well, Sally Field was also Forrest Gump's mother in Forrest Gump. She also played she played Abby Lockhart's mother in ER. Abby Lockhart played by Mara Tierney.
Yeah, she was in Mrs. Doubtfire, which Rick brought up that movie earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was her name, Sassy. Cats rule and dogs drool. That's a good movie.
Yes, it is.
Well, we're
also
coming up.
Qualifies as a Thanksgiving movie because it ends on Thanksgiving.
Oh, but just like that stupid idea that Die Hard is a Christmas movie because it takes place during Christmas.
Yeah, but the whole goal is they're trying to get back home, and they get back home in time for Thanksgiving. So, like, I would qualify that in the same way that I would qualify Planes, Trains, and Automobile because they're trying to get home in time for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but the cats.
The animals don't know about Thanksgiving. No, they're just trying to find their people.
Which I think that movie was based on The Incredible Journey.
Yes, there is even a version of it called The Incredible Journey, a Homeward Bound.
Yeah.
It's going to be a Donner Party Christmas.
I'll pass.
Yeah, no kidding. Don, I've already that's that party that tried to travel through the Sierra Madre and ended up becoming
Yes.
cannibals, right?
Yes.
That's why I thought of it. I thought it's a Donner Party Christmas. Where's Frank? We're eating them. Yay! It's a Christmas miracle.
Well, guys, we're coming up on quarter till, so you think it's a good time to maybe start wrapping up?
Well, it's
Maybe,
your
yeah.
show if you think it is.
What?
All right. Well, anyway, so what we'll do then is we'll, of course, go through this day in each history. Then we'll, close everything out here. Let me just. So now we're coming to the end of the show here. We're now coming to a point of
No return.
this weekend in Nietzsche history, the special edition of this weekend in Nietzsche history. This because this Thanksgiving's edition, because we have one piece of Nietzsche history from each day, each of the last 4 days, 23rd to the 26th. So
Ooh.
with that,
The weekend version, the extended
Right.
edition.
the special Thanksgiving extended edition of this weekend in Nietzsche history. So first off, going back to the 23rd here, which would be now going back 12 years ago, back this past Thursday, the 23rd, on 12 years ago this past Thursday, the 85th issue of Invincible from Image Comics went on sale on that date. Sold for $2.99, 32 pages, written by Robert Kirkman with art by Courtney J. Walker, Russ Wooten did the lettering, and Francisco Placencia did the coloring.
And how ironic that we were just talked about it a couple minutes ago.
Oh, the Invincibles?
Yeah, what issue is it up to now?
Okay, so it's actually really easy to catch up with Invincible because there's only 12 volumes of 12 issues. So there's only 144 issues, and you could grind through that in a weekend if you were dedicated.
Oh, there's 144 issues, and it's been like, wow.
Yeah.
I think they only went up to a certain amount because I don't think it's still going, is it?
No, it's over. There was a conclusion to the series.
All right. So now getting ready to move on to
It's just
next
now getting
day,
popular. It's funny.
Friday, 40 years ago this past Friday.
So the 24th.
Yeah, right. 40 years ago this past Friday, Jim Crockett Promotions, in conjunction with the NWA, held the first ever Starrcade event, 83. Now, at this point, of course, Starrcade would not become a pay-per-view until about 4 years later, but this is the very first one. This is known simply as a supercard. Starrcade 83, A Flair for the Gold, was the first annual Starrcade professional event. It was produced by the National Wrestling Alliance, banner by Jim Crockett Promotions. The event took place November 24th, 1983, from the Greensboro Coliseum, and was broadcast on closed circuit television around the southern United States. So basically, this was the first event, but as I said, it wouldn't become a pay-per-view until 4 years later, in 1987. The main event saw Ric Flair defeat Harley Race in a steel cage match for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, with former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Gene Knitsky as special guest referee. The late great Jay Youngblood and Ricky Steamboat regained the Mid-Atlantic version of the NWA World Tag Team Championship from the Briscoe brothers. That's Jack and Jerry Briscoe, with Angelo Mosca as the special guest referee there. Roddy, on his way out of the Mid-Atlantic area, Roddy Piper defeated Greg Valentine in a dog collar match. This was basically one of his last matches before he signed with the WWF. And eventually went on to the WWF, which we know of today. We also had Charlie Brown, aka Jimmy Valiant, defeat the Great Kabuki for the NWA World Television Championship. Again, the Mid-Atlantic version of that. Some of the other notable matches included Abdullah the Butcher defeating Paula Cologne. You had the show open up with the Assassins, managed by Paul Jones, defeating Bugsy McGraw and Rufus Argent. This was an event that was kind of co-produced by Jim Crockett Promotions in the Mid-Atlantic area, and as well as Georgia Championship Wrestling out of Georgia and World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico. So you had 3 NWA territories contributing talent to this event. That happened 40 years ago Friday. And getting ready for yesterday. On yesterday's date, 60 years ago, back in 1963, Toei Animation's Wolf Boy Ken, known in Japanese as Okami Shonen Ken, premiered on TV Asahi on yesterday's date, 60 years ago. The plot here was Ken is a young boy who was raised by wolves, similar to Mowgli, in a jungle in the Himalaya Mountains. One day, a meteor hits the jungle, causing a drastic change. This eventually leads to famine and a need for certain animals to relocate. Ken tries to help the animals as much as possible. In particular, he watches over 2 young wolf cubs named Chi-Chi and Popo. Jack, a one-eyed wolf, doesn't like Ken as he is human living among them. One day, Ken saves Jack's life. Jack later has the opportunity to let Ken die when he is bitten by a poisonous snake, but decides to return the favor and save his life instead. This mutual affair creates a friendship to form between the two, and they team up to save the other animals from predators and humans. So,
I've seen a little bit of this.
Yeah. Let's see.
Ken's a fitting name because in Japanese the word Ken means fist. So if he was a human growing up amongst wolves, he'd be the only one that actually has hands like us.
Yeah. So on this date, or on yesterday's date, 6 years ago, Toei Animation's Okami Shonen Ken, also known as Wolf Boy Ken, premiered on TV Asahi.
Sounds interesting.
Oh, is that Rick?
I said sounds interesting.
Yeah. And then last but not least, on today's date, 80 years ago today.
Long time ago, Shiny.
On today's date, 80 years ago today, I pull it up here.
Do, 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 do.
And I had to double check this because when I was looking at the Wikipedia page for it, it was showing 2 different. So I decided to go to IMDb. On this date, 80 years ago today, Walt Disney's Home Defense premiered on this day. It was a war propaganda animated short. Donald is manning a listening post, falls asleep. He blows trumpet calls in his sleep and wakes his nephews. For their revenge, they send up a model airplane filled with gingerbread men with parachutes. Donald shoots it down and cowers in fear. When he sees the parachutes and hears a simulated battle until one lands on his beak. Donald kicks his nephews out until he mistakes a bee for an airplane and calls them back to fight this menace.
He mistakes a bee for an airplane. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not really becoming of
It
him.
would be more likely. I would think it would be more likely you'd confuse a bee with a helicopter than an airplane. But anyways,
I don't think he confused it
No.
for either.
You had to think too about planes at that time. All of them were propeller planes, so the buzzing of a bee, whose wings are even kind of somewhat out like a plane, it would be very, very appropriate for them to confuse it for the propeller of an airplane.
All right. So with all that being said, of course, well, I was going to start with Tim. I don't know if Tim is because it looks like he said he went he had to go do something real quick, but I was going to start with him and go kind of counterclockwise. But I guess we can start with Mel. If you guys want to do your outros, want to share any links or anything like that.
Yeah. Like same thing as before. Just peddling my t-shirts because you only have until the 15th to pick it up, and then I'm nuking it. You will never be able to buy this. I won't say ever again, but who knows the next time I'll run it. Could be 2-3 years from now. I might
And
have
how
other
much are
designs.
How much are these t-shirts?
Well, they're not just shirts. The shirt itself is like $26 US, but there's other cheaper options too. You can even just get it as like a die cut sticker for $10. You can get a pint glass. They've got hoodies. Fleece
Teespring.
blanket, mugs. Yeah, it's over on Spring, right? And you just pick up the design on whatever you like, and then it's gone on the 15th.
Just like
gotta
yesterday,
use
it's
that
gone.
FOMO. That fear of missing out.
Just like yesterday, it's gone. It will be gone.
All right.
That's it.
All right, Rick, did you want to do an outro?
Yeah, I just promote my channel again by promoting another short. I'm not sure what the short is. I think it's me coloring in a bird reminded me of Birdie from Ronald McDonald stuff, but more of a cartoony real life bird.
Yeah. Maybe something like Woody Woodpecker or something like that?
No. Just the look of it made it reminded me more of Birdie from Thing, but like in a more realistic, cartoonish version. Not one as big as Ronald McDonald walking around. This one's actually in flight.
All right. You want to promote anything else on your channel? Any shows coming up or anything like that?
Well, of course, Tuesday I have the chill stream, and hopefully I'll have some more shorts out this coming week.
All right. Well, Tim, we're doing outros. So, did you want to do an outro? Maybe share any links, promote anything, or anything like that?
I don't have anything to promote right now.
All right. Well, with that, I thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Kind of a looser conversation tonight, where we just kind of went with it. As there hadn't been a whole lot, but I hope everybody enjoyed what we talked about. And with that, of course, we'll be back tomorrow night with Niche News, covering the latest in the world of niche. This Friday, I have RJ Carter will be joining me, and we will be beginning our look at January of 1940. We'll be focusing in on DC Comics. We'll be reading, we'll be most likely reading our Superman. We'll be introducing everybody to the Spectre, as well as the Witch. So with that, I hope everybody will come back at that. I hope you'll catch the latest in news tomorrow. And with that, I thank everybody for being here. And we will see you all tomorrow.